As everybody knows, there's been a very alarming rise in anti-Semitism in terms of the quantity of it, how many incidents there are, and around the world, not just limited to one place, and the quality. The type of rhetoric, the type of things they're chanting for would have been unthinkable a few years ago. And especially in places like America, where the Jews had attained a position of respect, the idea of calling for the annihilation of the Jewish people would simply have been unthinkable. And yet that is what's happening today. And mainly from pro-Hamas and left-wing activists. Openly, they have rallies. And I just heard the other day, this was obviously an Arab pro-Hamas, and saying from the river to the sea means the annihilation of Israel, and the people are cheering him. And nobody says anything about this. Not in America, not in the world at large. Don't the moral authorities of the people have an obligation to stand up and talk about this and show why this is a terrible, terrible thing, and it leads to horrible things like the Holocaust? Who should be talking about it? People that have a pulpit. If I had a big pulpit and I could reach many, many people, I would speak about this and try and convince them that they're engaged in something which is completely false, evil, and immoral, and can lead to horrible, horrible results. I'm thinking of two specific people, and that is the President of the United States, Joe Biden, because he has a pulpit. He can go on national television and give a talk, 15 and a half hour, whatever it is, and explain in a calm way that this is something which all Americans and all decent people need to condemn. And I would definitely think that's an obligation of his, but he hasn't done it. Or anyone in the country, religious leaders that have a pulpit, they have a platform where people will listen to them, should at least make that effort. And from a religious angle, there are Muslims that condemn it as well. Muslim religious leaders, rabbis that have a big following where there'd be coverage, and Christian leaders as well. The second individual I'm thinking about is the Pope. Where's the Pope in all this? He has the biggest religious pulpit in the world of anyone. If he announces that he's going to be giving a talk, and it's open for today, it's open for everybody. You can go on Zoom and so on, with television, whatever it is. He has a huge moral voice. And given the history of the church in terms of anti-Semitism, which all historians agree that they manufactured Western anti-Semitism, and it did lead to the Holocaust. Not that Hitler was killing the Jews because of religious reasons, but the fact that all of Europe was prepared to accept it and nobody spoke out was because they had been indoctrinated through Christianity that the Jews are deserving of this. All right, after the Second World War, the Catholic Church has undergone certain changes and so on and so forth, but you can't rely on that alone. It has to be reiterated. And the message has to be that this is a terrible, terrible sin. To speak out in a way that inciting people to hatred of the Jews per se, should be understood as a terrible, terrible sin. There are millions, probably a billion Christians in the world. And if they heard this from their religious leader, and even people of other religions, it would have an impact. Come to your senses, world. This is exactly what happened in the 30s when Hitler came to power. And the propaganda was continuing, relentless, and nobody spoke out against it. I'm thinking that the President of the United States, during the time of the Holocaust, Franklin Roosevelt, he never spoke about this. He had these fireside chats. He was a very effective communicator. Had he spoken about this, it might have had some impact. And the Pope also was silent. So you have the same two individuals who today are silent, were silent during the time of the Holocaust. Very, very serious shortcoming, to say the least. Look, I'm calling upon all religious leaders that have any kind of a pulpit, any kind of a audience. This is getting out of hand. And I don't know that this alone solves the problem, but most of the people in the world are religious. And if it comes from their religious leaders, in fact, that's where the Hamas, the terrible hatred of the Jews, is indoctrination, and they make it a part of their religious belief. Islam, not all Islam believes that. So the other religious leaders and the political leaders of the world, those who have a moral voice, need to stand up and talk about this. We can't be indifferent to this phenomenon. I'm hoping that perhaps we'll see some changes, and it's the time of redemption, it's the time of Passover. Let's hope and pray that things will improve.